We're here to talk about the Bachelor of Arts and Bachelor in Science in Environmental Practice. So happy to be with Chris Ling. Hi, Chris.
Morning, everyone. Or afternoon, sorry.
Yeah, we're not sure yet, depending where you're joining us from in the world. And I'm Nancy Prévost-Maurice. I'm an education specialist here at RRU, doing a lot of student recruitment. And behind the scene, we have Carla from Enrollment Services, who will be helping out answering any question in the chat and posting a bunch of links. And those links will be shared with you with the recording link as well, so you can follow up. At RRU, we really take seriously reconciliation, and we want to acknowledge the traditional lands that we are on. And as I see more people introducing themselves in the chat right now, I invite you to reflect on the traditional lands you're joining us from today, and maybe post about it in the chat. So RRU University campus is located on the Kasapsan and Lekwaghan families and ancestral nation and lands known as the Esquimalt and Sunhi. So it's with deep gratitude that we are now learn, work, play all together on these lands where the past, present, and future of Indigenous people come together. So please again, introduce yourself in the chat. I see more people joining, and let us know the Indigenous lands you're from. The agenda for today. So we're doing the welcome. We get to know each other already. We'll give you a brief overview of the RRU University experience. We'll talk obviously with the program, with Chris about the program. We'll talk about admissions, and we will welcome your questions throughout the session. So let's jump in. Thank you for joining for the one who are just joining us right now. Before I introduce you to RRU University, I really want to focus on the Changemaker campus. So RRU University has that Ashoka U accreditation, which is all about innovation, leadership, entrepreneurship. So we're very proud of that accreditation. Only a few institutions in Canada have it, and we're really proud because that means that we do things differently, and you'll hear about it in a minute. Maybe you're in college right now, maybe you took a break from being at school, you're maybe a working professional. So there's so many different people joining RRU University. And I guess if you're in that session, you're asking yourself, what's your next move? Why will I come to RRU University? There's many reasons for that, but here I have a few bullet points for you. We see life as a qualification. When we do admission, and I'll talk about it at the end of the session, but we really want to see the whole person that you are. So we're not just focusing on grades, it's really about all the volunteering experience you had in the past, the work experience, the education as well. So it's really about your full person and what you will bring into the cohort. Prof who know your name. I'm myself a student at RRU, and that is very true. All our instructors really get to know ourselves, get to work with us and help us out to level up our career. We're not just a number, and you'll see that as you start the process of applying to RRU. You're not a number, so people really get to know you and care for you, if I can add. Learning based on life. So everything you learn outside school counts and matters. So we like to bring theory and practice together in the classroom, and in this case, mostly virtual. But you'll see that really what you learn or what you face in your current workplace, you can bring it into the discussion forum, for example, with your cohort and talk about it. So it's not just theory, it's really what's happening in the world right now, and we discuss it and we go deeper to get a better understanding. Connection for Life. We have an amazing network of alums everywhere in the world. We like to joke sometimes that many of our alumni will hire our grads or our students right now. So there's a beautiful connection. And the people you will meet in your cohort, even if it's online, even if you switch from cohort to cohort sometime, those connections will last and will help out for sure during your career. We were built differently. So we started in 1995 as an online institution. So we're really for working professional. We're from people that want to be inspired and have the courage to change their world. So I like to say sometimes RRU is not for everyone. It's really for those of us that have kind of that sparks to create something different. And we are here to adapt to your lifestyle as well. So we'll talk about it a little bit more. And just a few pictures of campus. Maybe you can use your little reaction feature if you want to give me a thumbs up if you came to campus before. Royal Roads University, we're located in Caldwell, so it's a few minutes from Victoria, BC, British Columbia. We have on the top left Hadley Castle, which is our most iconic building where many movies were filmed, such as Deadpool and X-Men. You can see behind the castle the Esquimalt Lagoon, the picture that you have at the bottom, which is a bird sanctuary, amazing place to do homework or just go for a walk. At the top right, you have the Japanese garden. So we have 565 acres of land, which is a lot to discover and explore. And at the bottom right, online learning for 25 years. So again, for us teaching online, it's not something we had to pivot over the past years with COVID, for example. It was like at the core of our model for 25 years. So we really know what we're doing. So it's a very fascinating teaching model, I should say, and learning model for you. And I'll pass it over to Chris here and have a look at the chat for more questions. Thank you.
Yeah, I haven't seen any questions coming into the chat so far, but many people saying hi and telling us where they're coming from. So welcome to you all, and feel free to pop questions in that chat anytime as we're going through the material. But yes, as Nancy says, I'm the program head for the Bachelor of Environmental Practice program. That means if you have any questions about the way the program works, then I'm a good person to address those to, and hopefully I'll be able to answer. So yeah, as we've noted, the Bachelor of Environmental Practice program is an entirely online program. None of the courses that you take in the program are actually on campus. They're all through our learning platform. And that means that you don't have to travel here. You don't have to, leave your home communities. You don't have to remove yourself from your employment while you're doing the program. So it's very flexible and really gives lots of opportunity for upgrading your current education to a bachelor's degree. The content of the courses that are online, if you're unfamiliar with online learning, is primarily we do what's called asynchronous learning. That means you don't have to be online at any particular time. It's not like a lecture that's just being streamed on Zoom. And there are a variety of ways in which we interact, the instructors and the students interact, and the students interact with each other during the course. And here's some examples of that. So at the most basic, there are discussion forums where you can post questions, respond to comments. There are activities that are both reflective or based on real life context. Like I know some courses have, for example, sort of what we call a virtual field trip, whereby you take part in some sort of do some sort of activity or something in your home communities. You work with teams of peers during the courses, so interacting with other students, and of course readings and feedback from the instructor are all things that take place in our learning platform. And on that subject, someone's asked the question: is it possible to complete the online program full-time while working full-time? I wouldn't say it. It's certainly possible to complete the online program for sure. Doing it full-time while also working full-time, I would counsel against that, but that would be a decision that you would have to make yourself. I mean, just to give an indication, typically our courses are 3 credit courses over a 12-week period. Which means for each course, you'd be expecting to work somewhere between 8 to 10 hours a week. So if you're doing one course and you're working full time, then that's probably quite manageable. If you're doing 2, it's probably manageable, but you're not going to be able to engage in quite the same level of family and social life as you might be used to. If you're doing 3 courses, then you're really going to have to look at your time management and really think if that's something that's feasible for you. So there's also another question on occupations that the BA EP alumni have gone into. I mean, huge range of different occupations. Probably the best advice I can give you is to look on the website of our partners, Eco Canada, and that'll give you an indication of all the sort of job opportunities that are available right now and what sort of qualifications are required for that. Anecdotally, I can share, some stories of people who have been alumni in the program and what they've gone on to. So we've had people who work in climate action, we've had people who work in environmental consultancy, with people who go into municipal planning, municipal environmental issues. We've got people who are working at higher levels of government. We've got people who are doing sustainability work in a variety of different contexts. So, it's really a huge range of opportunities. And very much depends on maybe what you did for your, if you did a college diploma, what that was in. Maybe if you, have got previous work experience, that will also influence what occupations are then available to you in the future. And a question about lab work. There isn't any lab work in any of the courses at Royal Roads that are part of the BEP program. If you are very keen to do laboratory work, then I would encourage you to come to our sister program that's an on-campus program. And that has a lot of laboratory work as part of that. That's the Bachelor of Science in Environmental Sciences. It's also technically or theoretically possible that as part of your elective suite of programs that you take as part of the BEP, you could elect to do, if there are any laboratory focused courses available at other institutions near where you live that you wanted to do, they wouldn't be listed as one of our approved electives, but if you found one that you wanted to take and were able to take it, then you could seek permission to take that as one of your electives. So that's an option available to you. We don't list those type of courses because we only list courses that are online. And of course, typically they're not laboratory based. So to come back a little bit to the slides, happy to have the questions. So carry on posting them in. As we've discussed, we could have either a Bachelor of Arts or a Bachelor of Science program. The core part of that program is the same, regardless of whether you're taking a Bachelor of Arts or a Bachelor of Science. And that's a curriculum that we've developed with partnership with Eco Canada to create a core curriculum that meets the needs of environmental employers that are around Canada. The difference is the amount of the types of electives that are available in the Bachelor of Arts or the Bachelor of Science. As I said, it's fully online. It's 60 credits, comprising a third and fourth year equivalent for an undergraduate degree. If you've already taken some third and fourth year credits at another institution, and they aren't being used as part of your admission requirements, because as you're probably aware, admission requirements, we'll come to this later anyway, after 60 credits of post-secondary education. So if you're not using them for that, then you may be able to transfer up to 15 credits into the program, which will reduce the amount of credits you need to take as an enrolled student in the Bachelor of Environmental Practice. As part of the program, you can take a number of designated courses from universities across Canada, which gives you the opportunity to pick up skills and pick up curriculum in areas that we can't actually deliver at Royal Roads. And then to complete your program, you take either a 75-hour practicum course, so that's on-the-job experience, which you have to do at least 75 hours of work for and then report on that, or a research paper, which is a more academically focused capstone program, and recognizes that many of you will probably be working already, so don't feel the need for the practicum, but also gives you the opportunity to explore a topic that interests you in more depth, bringing together all the knowledge and skills that you've developed over the course of your program. Yeah, thanks. So the program goal overall is to really align with the needs and requirements of the environmental professions in Canada. And that's why we work with Eco Canada to make sure that we are delivering graduates with skills that are valued in that sector. And they do a lot of research on what that is. They talk to people who've been through environmental programs. They talk to employers. They talk to all those people and say, well, what is it that you need from your degree that's going to stand you in really good stead for success in an environmental career? And so that means things like developing analytical and critical thinking abilities, increasing your environmental knowledge, and enabling you to pursue a career that lets you take on environmental challenges. And not unimportant in all that is the ability to connect with this network of professionals who have been through the program before, a part of Eco Canada. We have a lot of situations where students have made connections with people who are within the program currently or have been in the program in the past and have managed to leverage those connections to enhance their career. As we go to the next slide, thank you. So who are our students? Well, a variety, again, many different backgrounds are represented in the program. So we have professionals that are currently working in the environmental field and want to upgrade their education to give them more opportunities within their existing employment. We've got people who have been working in other careers but want to transition into the environmental field. We also have people who are within the environmental field who want to aspire then to management and leadership positions that maybe aren't available to them with only having, we're not having a bachelor's degree at this point. And also people who already have, a degree or a diploma on non-environmental discipline that wish to seek a second qualification and move into that environmental career area. And as many people are now saying, there's almost no career area that doesn't have some sort of environmental component to it. We're increasingly seeing, this reflects back to the previous question that we had, we're increasingly seeing people moving into sectors that you wouldn't imagine would have environmental opportunities. Things like, banking, things like, other sort of financial institutions, things like, sort of non-environmentally aligned businesses that have to do increased amounts of environmental reporting, increased amounts of understanding about the impacts of their business.
And Chris, correct me if I'm wrong, but I think in the cohort 2, there's quite a big diversity and variety of people coming straight from college and then people that have worked.
Yes, absolutely. So we have people who are coming from colleges from across Canada. We have people who have been working in a variety of different businesses or employments or whatever over a number of years. So there's a large range of expertise, and one of the nice things about this sort of program is you get to learn from those experiences and the expertise of other people that are within the program. And hopefully it use, not just the instructors, knowledge and facilitation is of value, but it's also learning from those other folks within the program. So there's a couple of other questions I've noticed. So are there any programs, internships, organizations you would recommend that complement what we learn at Royal Roads? Not quite sure I understand what you mean there, Joe. I would say, obviously I've mentioned Eco Canada before, they're by far the most sort of key organization that we work with. Those people that have taken the practicum option have done it through, I don't think there's I may be wrong here, but I don't think there's been a single repeat for the organization that practicum students have worked with, and that's a lot of students. So, I mean, they probably are. I don't have that information in front of me, but certainly from what I've seen, there's a huge variety of organizations that people have done practicums with, from NGOs to private companies to municipal authorities to provincial government agencies, all sorts of different groups, if that's what you mean. Yeah, so the EP designation still needs 5 years work experience after graduation. Yeah, if you don't have any work experience yet, you can get what's called an EPT designation, which is an environmental professional in training. If you have, like, the educational components of your designation, but not the work experience, then you can kind of get on a pathway to that. And Carla's posted a link to that. I don't think I've missed any other questions. If I have, then maybe we can come back to that. All right, so I just want to share with you now a couple of what we call pathways. So these are examples of how people have navigated the Bachelor of Environmental Practice program. These are obviously not real names, and the details of the students are not exactly aligned with somebody that's actually been in the program, but the actual pathways that we're illustrating are real pathways that genuine people have done. And then we've just kind of created a sort of example of a typical kind of situation that might exist for somebody that's taken that route. So the first example we have is a student called Cindy, who has already completed 2 years of an undergraduate degree elsewhere, but was looking to finish that degree in order to launch her career in the environmental field. She needs to work and also maintains a volunteer position. And so she has decided to do the Bachelor of Environmental Practice in the science side, so she can both have a flexible approach to her education and also choose core and elective courses that align with her interests. The online delivery, so the fact she didn't have to travel to campus, meant that she was able to complete her degree in only 33 months, keeping a balance between her work and life. And so what you see here is that she has taken in the first 2 years what we call Block A, which is the core component of the course. All those courses are taught at Royal Roads, and you can see the types of courses that are part of that in the list there. Then in years 2 and 3, Cindy completed her Block B, her elective component, and she's taken a variety of courses both at Royal Roads but also elsewhere in other institutions. And if the elective courses that we have are offered a variety of different institutions. And the process for doing those is that you essentially apply to take those courses with that institution, and then do what's called a letter of permission, which sounds very authoritarian, but it's not really. But sort of just makes an agreement between that will transfer those credits into your Bachelor of Environmental Practice course. And then in the 3rd year, Cindy completed a research paper as her program capstone. And we see typically, slightly depending on when you start the program, because we have 3 intakes a year, we only offer the capstone courses once a year. So that does impact how fast you can go through the program. But typically people who sort of try and get things through as quickly as they can are taking around, as it says here, 33 months. But it's typically sort of 2.5 to 3 years is the norm. We have had people that have completed it in as little as 2 years, but usually they're not working. They don't have any other sort of life demands to keep them from their education. The second pathway that we have, if we have that, is someone who wants to go through the process a little bit slower. John here has done a college diploma a few years ago. It didn't go so well because of some personal issues at the time. So he has a lower GPA than would normally be sufficient to come into the program. So he is assessed at admission on what we call flexible admission, which means we take into account his life experiences, his career up to that point, to offset any deficiencies in the what we call the standard admission of 60 credits with a GPA 3 or over. So he has decided to do a BA because that's aligned with his career goals and his interests and his past educational experience. And although he could have completed it in as little as 33 months, he's decided to take it at a slower pace so he can keep up responsibilities at work. He has a young family, so he doesn't want to spend too much time going through his education. So a similar kind of pattern, but taken over a longer period. So the core courses taken in the first and second and third years, the Block B electives in the fourth, fifth and sixth years, again, a mixture of courses at Royal Roads and other institutions, and then a program capstone in the sixth year as a program. And from the moment you start, you actually have 7 years to complete the Bachelor of Environmental Practice. So if you want to take it slow, make sure that you don't leave things too slow to start with and find you have to take on too much to catch up at the end. But you do have 7 years to plan out the courses that you want to take. We'll go back to another question here, which is, this may not be a usual question, but I have a background of working with early childhood education and youth. Can graduates use this degree to work in or around education? Have you seen this degree used in this way? I can't think of anyone that has done, but I can't see any reason why you wouldn't be able to do that. I mean, obviously, if you have your ECE qualifications already and you want to sort of enhance that with some education, environmental understanding, then, I can see there'd be a really interesting pathway for you into sort of nature-based education or sort of, nature-based kindergartens. We actually have one on the campus at Royal Roads. Not that it's run by the university, but they use the campus for that. So there's actually, I can't remember off the top of my head if we have any specific environmental education courses within the elective options. Yeah, I mean, I can see that as a very interesting possibility and opportunity. So yeah, while I can't think of any specific incidents of someone doing that, I can't see why that wouldn't be entirely appropriate. Yeah, and we do have, if you did want to do something a little bit more face-to-face, but also have the experience of going abroad, we do have partnerships with various institutions around the world where you can see what they've got to offer, and you can do their programming and use that as part of your Block B elective suite. So what's listed is not the limit to what you can do. It's merely what we have determined is available and appropriate, but there's always other opportunities that you can bring into the program. So just to sort of highlight some of the faculty that we have, here are just 6 people who depending on what courses you do, you may or may not come into contact with them. But they range from somebody like Rick Houle, who's a faculty at Royal Roads. He, for many years, he ran our environmental education and communication department. He now teaches communication to the BEP program. We have Julie Williams, who's a lawyer with the provincial government, an environmental lawyer with the provincial government. We have Liza Ireland, who is a consultant, environmental consultant, who's worked around the world in various different capacities. Ed Beggs, who teaches, occasionally teaches our environmental business course, I think. Sorry, I should know that, shouldn't I? And he's, has run an environmental business for many years. He's now largely retired, but still teaches. And people like Scott and Leanne, who are also very experienced environmental professionals in their field. And this is what I'd want to highlight, is that we have people who have all sorts of both sort of, academic experience, but also very practical environmental experience working in various sectors and environmental industries. To bring that knowledge into the classroom with them is hugely valuable. All right, I think that's enough from me, although I'm still here for questions, and I'll hand it over to Nancy to talk about the application process, and I may jump in on occasion as well.
Thank you so much, Chris. That was so informative. And as we were going, and I know, thanks, Carla, for sharing all the links for ECO Canada. And I just wanted to add that with some of the faculty, we traveled to Calgary a few weeks ago to the ECO Canada conference. And it was so amazing to meet so many people that have done your program, Chris, and just like everything they're doing in the world right now, in their work. And many of them said they started with a college diploma, thought it was enough, but they wanted to deepen their expertise. So they came to Railroads, and like all their career, like just blew after that, and like all the opportunities that now they're doing. Some people do mentorship with new students as well. And I really saw a beautiful collaboration with people. And I think this is what we need. And what we heard there from many employers is the demand. There's so much work in that field. There's so much demand that people were like, please go to school, learn about it, and then apply and work with us in a variety of fields. So I think that's a very exciting field to be studying in. And I just heard it with my 2 ears a few weeks ago. And I'm really pleased that most of you are here in the room asking about the program. I'm just looking at other questions. I think we're good here. So standard admission. At Railroads, as I mentioned before, we do things differently. So we have 2 types of admission, which gives more people the opportunity to join our classrooms. So we have what we call standard admission. So you will come in with a 60 post-secondary arts or science credits. And as Chris mentioned before, a GPA of B, which is a 3, from a recognized post-secondary institution. If you're looking for the Bachelor of Science, then you will need to have 18 of those credits in science. So this is kind of the traditional way, if I can say. You have a good GPA, you have that transcript, and then you come in. I don't know, Chris, if you have the data of how many people come standard versus flexible, but I think for many people wanted to go to university, sometimes you feel that it's a barrier because maybe you don't have the full diploma, or maybe you don't have the GPA. And this is when we start talking about what we call the flexible admissions.
Yeah, I don't have data because I don't, the really totally standard ones I never see because I don't need to, because it's easy to adjudicate them. So I only really see the flexible admissions or ones where there's a little bit more of a complicated story. And but certainly there are plenty of people who come via both routes for sure. And actually, there's a question there about transcripts. I think I'll perhaps leave that for Carla to address.
Okay.
I'm not sure I can.
I'll double check the chat, yeah. And talking about standard admission, you make me think, Chris, of people when we talk about transfer agreements, and I can share a link with all of us, or maybe Carla in the chat. If you're already studying in many colleges in Canada, we have what we call pathways or transfer agreements. So most of the time, we have done the work for you of looking at like all the courses you take at the college and see if it's a good fit. So there's kind of direct almost entry. If you have a good GPA with those courses, and you complete your college diploma, it's almost it's really designed for you to come right to Railroads to do year 3 and 4. But again, if your institution doesn't have a transfer agreement, or maybe if you don't have that GPA, what we are looking for with flexible admission is really people who bring that kind of knowledge and experience from previous work. So we ask of 5 years of work, or a combination of academic achievement, work experience, volunteer experience. Of course, we ask an ability to demonstrate the competencies as expected from a graduate with 2-year diploma. Again, just keeping in mind that you're coming to year 3 and 4 of a bachelor. So we expect you to be kind of at that level, whatever that means, not just with an academic background again, but with everything you have been doing in life. And for those of you who have the diploma, but you don't have the GPA requirement, we ask you a 3 years of work or relevant volunteer experience. And I appreciate, Chris, what you mentioned about more complicated or complex. So this is why when you go through flexible admission, this is not something you have to check when you apply at Railroads. We'll see it in a minute, but you really submit your application and then our wonderful team of admission advisor will look at your file and let you know if there's anything missing, if you need to supply more documents, submit more documents, and really understand where you're coming from to help you to get into the program if we can. And I know that sometimes it's a bit vague to be like, what is a combination? So that will be kind of your role to show it to us with those documents here that are mentioned. So first of all, if you want to apply, you go on railroads.ca, you'll see the apply kind of category there, and you will see 10 simple steps to follow. First of all, you'll pay your application, $131.39. Then you will send us your transcripts. And I'll check the question in a minute about the transcript, but your transcript will be from your institution sent to Railroads. So you don't send it to any of us. It's really your institution that will send it. And then our admission advisor will be able to review and see if you're right into standard admission, or if you need to submit some more documents to move into the flexible. If you're currently in college, for example, and you will graduate, you might receive a conditional offer, meaning that you need to complete all your courses in order to come to year 3 and 4. If you're being assessed under flexible admission, we ask you to provide detailed resume. So it's more than a work resume, and we have some guidelines on the website for that as well. It's really like telling us about all your work, volunteer, education experience. And when I say so, I really want you to, when you do those steps, really reflect on what you have done, because I feel sometimes we forget, like many experiences we had in the past that were related to environmental work or activities, and we just forget about them. So it's good to even ask around, ask people that are close to you to be like, okay, what have I done in my life? Because I feel we forget. Personal statement is a great opportunity for you to sit and just reflect on who you are, like where you're coming from and where you want to go. You will use that personal statement to let us know, as the example we saw, if there's something that didn't go well in college and there's maybe a session that your GPA is really low, this is where you will let us know about it. So it's really your chance, to introduce yourself, but really let us know what happened in your life, what you have done, a little bit like your why you want to get into the program. And the last documents will be 2 letters of reference. Again, there's guidelines on the website, but we often ask for 1 academic, 1 professional letters of reference, and your referees will send it directly to the admission team. So they won't send it to you and then you transfer them. They will send it our way. So everything is summarized on the website. And the letters of reference, sometimes we laugh about it. It can be for many people, but not your families or friends. Don't ask your parents to do so. We really want to have kind of an external view just to, again, better understand who you are. Anything to add there, Chris, as I check the chat?
No, other than there's a question about how old your diploma can be. There are no restrictions there. Where there is a restriction on age is if you're asking to transfer any 3rd and 4th year credits. Those can't be more than about 7 to 10 years old. So, but in terms of just admissions, no, there's no restriction. Your diploma can be any age. And actually, going back, there's a question on the environmental employers in the Greater Victoria area that you're aware of who take on RR students while they're attending. I mean, it's hard to know, Joe, because most of our students are actually working. So if they're in the area and working, they may or may not do their practicum with that employer, but we don't necessarily know if they've created a new relationship there or it's an existing employer relationship or something like that. But certainly we've had people that have done projects with a variety of organizations in the area, such as the Capital Regional District. We've had them do it with the Victoria Compost Education Centre. We've had folks do practica with small businesses, a variety of different types in the region. So I mean, there are employers that have taken people on in the area, but whether they had existing relationships, it's not clear.
Great, and here we go. So talking about, and I know there's a few people asking specific questions, so we'll see if Carla can answer some of them. And if not, if you really just want to kind of dig in, I'll have a slide in a few minutes, but it's really by connecting with enrollment services on a personal level, just emailing learn.more@railroads.ca, that you can kind of go deeper a little bit of like your own experience and what you need to apply. Some people are asking me in the chat, when is the next intake? So that's great. May 1st, 2023 is the next one. We can see that the deadline is in a week already. What is great at Railroad is that we assess all application on a daily basis. So if you're ready today to apply, you can already submit your application online, pay that fee. So then at least your application is on by the deadline. And then you have a little bit more time to submit your documents, which means don't take 6 months. If you want to start in May, you'll have to kind of maybe rush into submitting your documents a bit, but you can really until February 8th, add that application, put that application in. If you need a bit more time, which is totally understandable, we have another intake in September and we have another one in January. So I like what Chris often say about it's a rolling admission. So if you don't make it to one, you can always apply to the second one. So you have 3 possibilities, almost opportunities per year, compared to some program that will be just in September.
Yeah, and my understanding is if you don't make the cutoff for the May intake, then you'll automatically be given an application. It'll automatically roll over to the next intake. And in answer to Moses' question about when do you hear back for an offer if the deadline is February the 8th, we don't store up applications. We respond to applications when they come to us, and you'll hear back when we make the decisions. So if you submit your application and it gets adjudicated either by somebody in the admissions team or myself or whenever, you'll hear back as soon as the decision has been made. So there's not a deadline in that sense. And also if you apply after the deadline and really want to get into May, if everything does get processed in time and it's still a possibility for you to start, then it's often the case that you would be able to start that date as well. So it's really, to some extent, it's a slightly arbitrary date, the application deadline for the Bachelor of Environmental Practice, because there's no one course you have to start with. It's pretty much a rolling process in reality.
I really appreciate the flexibility of this program, yeah. And I like what Carla mentioned. Applications are assessed up until the start of the program, and if not completed in time for intake, apply to this decision will be given for the next intakes. So I think what it means is if you don't get it if everything is not complete for a date, then you'll get a notification that you can apply for the next intake, which is great. So that gives you don't do all the work for no reason. You can just wait a few months and then start with us. Fantastic. Here and again, those dates are available online. You can go check the program schedule and everything. And as a prospect, so you're not a student yet with Railroads, you're a prospect with us, you still have services available to you. So I invite you to maybe print screen, take a picture of this slide here, go visit the Financial Aid and Award resource. Their team is amazing. They have not as much, I would say, bursaries than other big institutions, because Railroad, as you know, it's a small institution. We're a bit newer too, only 26 years now, but we have internal, external loans, and we can point you to different directions to find funding, because we know that going back to school or continuing your education, it takes money, it takes courage, we get it. So we try to really walk hand in hand with you to help you out. And Carla here is part of that fantastic enrollment services department. So you can reach them at learn.more@railroads.ca, and you have some phone numbers there too. So you can book a one-on-one appointment, get access to past webinars, and sometimes they can even connect you with a graduate from the program if you want to hear more. And I know, again, coming back to that ECO Canada conference, many people I met there were saying, we can go on LinkedIn as well, something I never thought of. Go on LinkedIn, just check for ECO-Canada designation, Royal Roads University designation, and then you can connect and already start building your network and ask anyone who has been in that program, how did it go for them and their recommendation. And I'll leave us here with a big thank you. Thank you, Chris. Thank you, Carla. Thank you for all of us for the amazing question in the chat. I'll make sure to send you the recording as well as many links. And just an invitation, in 2 weeks, we're doing another webinar with Chris, with some folks from ECO-Canada, and a few of our graduates from different programs at Royal Roads. So if you want to find out how our graduates impact the world, you can tune in for that free session on February 15. Anything to add here, Chris? Thank you so much, everyone.
Just sort of jumping back to a question that was earlier from Jude. Are there Indigenous professors for this degree? I'm really enjoying the Indigenous Pathways program. So first of all, thank you for the feedback. You're enjoying that program, Jude. I'm not involved with that myself, but I know the folks that are running that very well indeed. You know, glad you're having a good time there. So in answer to your question, I mean, I can't. There are Indigenous instructors that have been involved in a variety of courses in the BEP program. I can't necessarily guarantee that you would take a course with one of those instructors. There are some specifically Indigenous focused courses where they would always be taught by an Indigenous instructor. There are also 1 or 2 Indigenous instructors that teach, you know, what I guess I call the generic courses. I'm not sure if that'd be the right way of describing them. Who you know, sometimes teach with us, sometimes don't. They're contracted, so it's hard to say for sure whether that would occur for you. You know, so I guess that answers your question to a certain extent. It's not obviously the same as the Indigenous leadership program that you're in right now.
And maybe one last question, Chris. Someone is asking, if they take the May intake, would they start right away with the course in May?
Yeah, so the rules are that you have to take, well, actually I think you know, in order to maintain enrollment in the program, you only have to actually take 1 course in a year, I believe. Although, you know, if you do that, then you're going to be proceeding too slowly to complete it at that pace. There is, as soon as you start the program, there is essentially a kind of introductory course that's not a credit course, but it contains a lot of the stuff like training on sort of academic regulations and things like plagiarism and library skill and all that kind of stuff that everyone takes when they start. It's just a short kind of a short program, and then normally then people would go from that immediately into their first proper full credit course. But you know, I don't think there's any necessity for you to do that. I would say, however, if you're not ready to take a course in May, then you know, I'd encourage you maybe to defer your entry until September or whenever you are ready to take a course, because as soon as you start, the clock, you know, the 7-year time limit starts clicking, and the expectation that you take a course within a calendar year starts. So you know, it doesn't make sense to join the program for an intake when you're not ready to take a course, is what I would think I would say.
Wonderful. Thank you so much, Chris. Thank you, everyone. And yeah, please be in touch with us by email if you need anything, and use the learn.more@royalroads.ca as well. Enjoy your day. Thank you so much.
Yeah, thank you, everybody.